Any reasonable person would have been intimidated by the quadratic formula we just used. It was x squared minus 4x minus 10 was equal to 0. And we found two different solutions, 2 plus the square root of 14 and 2 minus the square root of 14. But we didn't talk about what those two things meant or make a reasonable guess about how easy they were to find. 2 plus the square root of 14, well, that's just a number. It's nothing to be scared about. It's very close to 5.7. There's other numbers after that, but when I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to think about it as 5.7. And the other one, 2 minus the square root of 14, is very close to negative 1.7. So those are the two roots, and I just wanted to talk about the fact that they make sense and maybe an easier way to find them. So it kind of makes sense when we were searching for the factors of this thing. We were looking for the factors of minus 10, and we discussed the fact that negative 10 and 1 didn't work because they add up to 9. And then the other two factors of 10, negative 5 and positive 2, those don't work either because they add up to negative 3. So the one of these two possibilities, the one of the two roots, that makes the most sense is this one. We were trying to get 4. And we didn't get 4, this one would give us 3. But it gives us an idea of what to look for. We know that the two factors would have to be very close to, the factors and the roots are opposite. Okay, so the two factors would have to be very close to 5 and 2. And to get 3, it has to be, well, a little bit more than 5. And then this one has to be a little bit less than 5. And you'll notice that the difference between these two things is negative 4, like we wanted it to be. So the two roots weren't 5 and 2. The two roots were actually 5.7 and 1.7. Not that big of a deal, just a little bit different than those two roots would have been. All right, here's another way of thinking about it. So it's also possible to just go ahead and graph this thing. And when you're graphing it, you're just going to put the equation in, x squared minus 4x minus 10. I can put a quadratic in, no problem. And if I want to know where that's equal to 0, well, I can figure out where it's equal to 0, and I can just push graph. And it's going to go ahead and graph this equation for me. You'll notice that this first 0, the first x-intercept, the first spot where the parabola hits the x-axis is here. And, well, I'll be darned, that's very close to negative 1.7. It's between negative 1 and negative 2. And this one is very close to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.7. If I wanted to figure out exactly where they were, I could go to second and calc and then figure out where my lines intersect, just like I do with algebra. And I would move over here so that I'm finding this intersects right here. There's my guess, and I should get negative 1.7. In fact, I do. These two lines intersect exactly at negative 1.74, etc., etc. This horrible number that we discovered before was 2 minus the square root of 14. Those are the two same things. Those numbers, the intersection that I just calculated was the same as what I calculated with the quadratic formula. All right, so that's a different way of looking at this problem. So one way of doing this is with factoring. Another way of doing this is with the quadratic formula. And another way of thinking about it is with the graph. The graph told us that there were two x-intercepts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first x-intercept was here between 5 and 6 at 5.7. And the second x-intercept was here between negative 1 and negative 2. Just again to prove to you that I'm not fibbing, the two intercepts of this graph, the two spots that it intersects the x-axis are here at negative 1.7 and here at positive 5.7. Okay, so those are the two x-intercepts of the graph. So these two spots have a whole bunch of different names. One of them is just plain the solution or the answer. These are the two solutions to the equation. They are also called roots. They're also the roots of the equation. They're the two spots here and here. So if somebody asks you for a root, they're asking for one of the two solutions. They are also the x-intercepts. So these are the two spots where y is going to be equal to 0, where the two spots where this equation y is going to be equal to 0. That's the two x-intercepts at 5.7 here and negative 1.7 here. And, they are also the way of factoring. So we were talking before, the two factors were not negative 5 and positive 2. That would give me negative 3 when I wanted negative 4. But they're awfully close. They're not 5 and 2, they're 5.7 and 1.7. So the correct way of factoring this is actually x minus 5.7 and x plus 1.7. So they are also going to give you the factors of the equation. Okay, so there's now 1, 2, 3, 4 ways of looking at the same solution. The factors, like this, of a quadratic equation are the solutions of that equation. They're also called the roots, and in the graph they are the two x-intercepts.